Oh my God!
You know, that reminds me of the joke of the woman that went in to wake up her son and said, "Son, you've got to get up, you got to go to church." And he said, "No." She said, "Come on, you've got to get up and go to church." He says, "I don't want to go to church." And she said, "You've got to go to church." He said, "Mom, I'm not going to church." She said, "You have to. You're 50 years old and you're the pastor." Some Sundays it's like that. So this morning I was doing all this stuff, and finally, just as I'm ready to walk out, and I've got 10 minutes to get to church, the phone rings. And the voice says, "Hi, this is Kate from Johannesburg."
I forgot.
Hi, Kate. Corky, you drive. I'm gonna, And she had had a stroke and is now in recovery, but still not doing too well. And she said, I just want to call and tell you I've been talking to your mother. My mom passed away 3 years ago, and your mom keeps telling me I'm going to do well. And I said, great, and I'm going to tell you you're going to do well too. And I said, I'm going to be talking today about get out of your brain and into your heart. And she said, Dottie, that's the longest journey you will ever take. And I said, Kate, that's right. It is the longest journey. And what happened is I was sitting channeling, and as you know, I channel a spirit guide named Mahalalel. I call him Ma. And Ma said, get out of your brain and into your heart, out of your ego and into spirit. I said, repeat that. That's nice, because I never remember what I say when I channel. And he said, get out of your brain and into your heart, out of your ego and into your spirit. And I sat there for a moment thinking about that. Instead of feeling it, I sat there and thought about it. I thought, he just told me not to do that. And I'm thinking about it. And get into the heart, get into feeling. Because you stop doing that. Have you ever watched a little kid? They don't stand there and think, well, if I spin around 3 times, I might fall down and have to sit down hard, and that might not be a very good thing.
They go,
no. They just spin around, don't they? They like the feeling. Why do you think kids turn around in circles? Because it changes their reality. Same reason some people drink and some people do drugs. It changes your reality. Sometimes you feel like you don't want to be here. But it's about feeling. You're not thinking, are you? You're feeling. So I want you to think about it. Because what Ma said is the human mind is where we hold our suffering. The human mind is where we think about what somebody else has done, or how good that person looks in a dress that you wish you could wear. You think about all sorts of, what am I going to do when somebody dies in my family? We think about things, and we make ourselves go a little bit crazy. But we don't feel. We just get into that thinking. And what he said, your heart is where you practice unconditional love. It's not in your brain. It's in your heart. And when you feel that heart awakening to loving everybody, sometimes it's very difficult to do because your mind says, you don't want to love that person. Do you remember what they did to you? Okay. I've got some people like that. That I go, well, I should be mean to them because they were mean to me. No, retaliation doesn't come from your heart. It comes from your mind. Your mind thinking that I can do this better than they were doing it. Your ego steps into the mind. And there you are, trying to blame everybody for something about what you have no control over. How many of you can control anybody else?
This is emotional ones.
Well, don't you think you can?
Rope does wonders.
Rope does wonders, okay.
No, it doesn't. They want to be carried up again.
What happens is, they usually get it off, or you have problems. But so when you think about turning off your mind and letting in your heart, there are so many times that you don't realize that you're stuck in your brain. You don't do that. You don't realize that. And so When I ask you to do that, bringing in love into your heart, because quite often we get so caught up in thinking about things we don't even stop to love. And as ministers, how many ministers do we have in here today? Yeah, there's a few, yeah. And as ministers, that feeling, I was talking about feeling when I was standing by the bedside of Bob Pierce. I wasn't thinking about what I was going to say to him. I was feeling what I was going to say to him. I was feeling the spirit. I was feeling the energy around. And I didn't say to him, well, Bob, if you'd been a better person. Have you ever heard of somebody say that? Somebody passes away and they say, oh, if they'd been a better person. How are
Well, only the good die young.
Yeah. I'm going to be here for a long time. Who are we to make judgments about people? All we need to do is feel their energy. You know, I had somebody come and she said, Dottie, every Sunday after church you ask us to hug people. Why do you ask us to do that? I don't like people. I don't want to hug people. Get out of your brain.
Say it loud.
Get out of your brain. Just honor that person, because that hug might be the only hug that person receives that year.
I find it difficult when I observe people so eager to recognize a person's faults instead of what is good.
Yeah. But we've been programmed that way. We have been programmed. Yes, David?
Well, growing up Buddhists, we were taught to feel with our heart
Right.
and love with our spirit.
Right.
That's what they teach you in Buddhism.
Exactly.
And there's a chant that goes along with that you chant. You pray.
Can you do the chant?
It's just not the whole thing. A lot of people have heard that.
Yes.
And,
Say it again.
One more time, slower and louder.
okay, it's Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.
Exactly. And so that's why, and that you feel. It's
Right.
not stuck in your head. It's something that
Yeah,
you feel.
because you want to love with your heart.
Yeah.
That's where your love is coming from.
Do you know what that translates to or not?
Roughly that.
What?
To feel with your heart and love with your spirit.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. Well, you're going to have to learn that, I think, for all of us to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's Japanese, so it doesn't translate word for, per se.
Word for word.
Roughly, it's that.
God, thank you so much.
to do.
Okay. But when you get out of your mind, let your heart take you on a whole journey of discovery. Feel. How many of you eat food and sometimes you don't even feel it?
That's the worst. Mindless eating. They have to eat more so they get, oh, okay, get to taste.
Because that's one of those places you feel. What do babies do? First thing they grab something, what do they do with it? Your brain doesn't say, don't you pick that up and put it in your mouth. It might have germs. You don't know where that's been. Okay, who tells their mind that?
The mother.
You do, don't you, as a parent? You pick it up and say, you shouldn't be doing that. But the feeling of tasting something, the feeling of seeing something, like standing up here and seeing this beautiful collection of people. I don't analyze each one of you. I just feel through my eyes. I hear and I feel through my ears. It doesn't have to process through my brain for it to be actually what life is about. And we see that in little ones. We see the way that they feel life. They touch life. They reach out. I met a baby. Didn't realize it was at the doctor's office, 15 months old. And I said, hi there. He frowned. I said, how are you today, little one? And he frowned. And I said, do you like my hat? And he goes, and I looked at his dad, and his dad said, every time I put my hat on, it's when I'm leaving the house.
Oh.
Now, there weren't any words about that going through that kid's brain. It was a feeling, you know. That's what hats mean to him. Yes, Christine?
Isn't when you're present, you're totally present, that's when you're
Feeling.
That's when you're feeling, when you're totally, totally present. When you're not thinking about what you're gonna say next, but that feeling, when you're not feeling about, is this right or wrong? But that feeling. But what does my mind dwell on? My mind says, I wonder how much money they have. I wonder what their genetic makeup is. I wonder where they were born. I wonder why they're so stupid. I wonder what they're gonna do next. You know, and all of a sudden, my heart says, would you just shut up and feel this beautiful baby, this beautiful person, this beautiful energy that you've just received, and let go of all of that. But we were trained when we were little. How many of you heard don't talk to strangers? You were trained not to feel somebody new, not to feel their energy, but don't trust. I grew up in Culver City, California, and I was told, this during the Second World War, that if any stranger approached me, I should go into the nearest house. Oh, that was exciting. Come on, stranger. I wanted to go to somebody. There was a house I really wanted to go into, but I didn't, you know. So one day I just walked up and knocked on the door, and this woman answered and said, yes. And I said, can I come in and play? And she looked at me. And I said, there's no stranger out there. And she said, okay. And luckily she knew where I lived and kind of who I was. And I went in and I played. And she called my mom and told her where I was. But my feeling was, this is when somebody that was really nice to be with. But I really got talked to about that. You don't just walk in. You don't say, can I, you know, because what could have happened to you? I could have gotten ice cream. I don't know. I had a feeling about this woman. She was all alone. And later she told my mom that was the greatest day she'd had all year.
Wow.
Yeah. Because kids feel that. Have you ever watched a kid play with an animal that's sick? You know, they just kind of walk over and just want to touch it and feel it. Their brain's not telling them that's a bad idea. They have those wonderful, wonderful feelings. So think about feeling people before you analyze them. Before you go through this whole litany of things in your brain that you were told to be careful of. Because all those things that we learned from our parents, and we learned from our teachers, and we learned from our politicians, are stuck in there about them and us. In our heart, there is no them and us. In our heart, it is just all of who we are. And we've also been taught that we can't change. Well, you're never going to change. Where do we hold that? In our brain. Our heart's ready to change at a moment's notice. Just any time, our heart's ready to change. When you forgive somebody, that's your heart. When you love somebody, that's your heart. When you absolutely feel this wonderful euphoria, that's your heart. Your brain doesn't think euphoria. Your brain analyzes it. Are we supposed to feel good?
It's really good.
Yeah. Is that good for you? Yeah. That's a whole other part of your body. Think about this whole idea of your heart. Your heart getting involved. I've got this gallery here I'm playing today. Because that ego of you always having to be right. How many of you feel that sometimes? You have to be right. Yeah, okay. I had a woman came in and she said, well, this and this and this and this and this, and I can't do this and this and this. I said, sure you can. She said, I can change? I said, yeah. I can get a new job. I said, yeah. She said, what do I do if it doesn't work out? I said, blame me. She said, what? I said, sure, go ahead, do it. Blame me if it doesn't work. She said, really? Can I do that? Sure. I have more people running around there saying, Dr. Boon said I can do this. Good. Empowering people. I got out of my ego, right? I brought spirit straight in, tell this woman, you can do it. You can do anything you want. But stop listening to that brain that said you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't have enough education. That brain that is that ego that keeps you from moving forward. Your heart doesn't. You're walking down the street and you see a building and your heart says, let's go work there. And your brain says, they're not going to let you in. And your heart says, yeah, but wouldn't it be great? Look at, they've got little parks and they've got little ponds. I've always wanted to work at Google, you know. and your brain says, they're not. Try it. I have so many people now that are working at a lot of the big companies because they tried it. They got out of their ego that said, you can't. So think of that. When you replace your ego with spirit, spirit will tell you how wonderful you are every minute of the day. If you have a voice in your head that says you're no good, you can't do that, that's not spirit. And if you hear a voice that says go jump in front of a train, that's definitely not spirit. You picked up something else along the way, so come see me. Because we'll get rid of that. But when you have that negative energy of doubt and gloom and lack of trust, change it and start feeling all that positive energy you have in your head. It comes up with well-being. I've mentioned this many times before because I was so thrilled when I read it. There was a group of people all around the world to find out where the happiest people in the world were. And they went everywhere. Was it people who had a lot of money? Was it people living on yachts? And they found there was a group of kids that lived in a garbage dump in India that were thoroughly happy. They knew every day there was a new load of garbage coming that they could go through. They had each other. It was nice and warm. There were a few dogs roaming around. The kids were orphans. And they laughed and played and had a great time. What happened? They were out of here and into here. They were feeling the love of the other kids, the other beings around. And they didn't have anything to worry about. You know, when people say that, you know, all of this worry you have is a bunch of garbage, maybe it's not. Maybe that's what helps sometimes. Finding a place where you feel complete comes from your heart, not from your head. And that spirit, every religion talks about spirit. Every religion. Now that spirit might be a mother spirit, a father spirit, an earth spirit. That spirit can be just about anything that you know is part of you. There's not a single person in here that doesn't have spirit within them. Because that's what you were born with. And so when you release your ego and you bring in spirit, you realize how absolutely perfect you are. Not because you think perfect thoughts, but you feel perfect thoughts. Feeling energy of the people around you in a positive way makes you move out of your ego and into spirit. I had read a quote by Gandhi. And Gandhi had said, your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. And I thought, what if you don't start with thoughts? What if you start with heart? And so I changed it to read, your ego becomes God. Your heart feelings become your words. Your loving words become your actions. Your God-based actions become your habits. Your loving habits become your value, and God-loving values become your destiny.
Beautiful. Wow.
Get out of that mind and into that spirit. Some of you were raised with a real definite connection through religion. And did you ever hear anybody say, well, ours is the only way?
Yeah.
Yeah, ours is the only way. And you just stop and you say, you know, I saw that on television, that their way was the only way, and it didn't seem to work too well. Well, it's because God's way is the only way. And it's how that spirit looks to you. How many of you have a picture in your head of what God looks like?
You mean that white man with the beard and the...
Yeah, you have a picture.
It's across from your old party and you in Bishop's London.
Okay. But if you just let go of that vision and feel it. Instead of putting it here, feel it and be it, exactly. One time I was talking to Ma, listening to Ma, and he said, would it bother you if I told you God was a committee?
Oops.
Only because I know what committees do.
And I said, what do you mean? And then I read the very beginning of Genesis. And when the gods read it, and when the gods made the earth. And that's the way it starts in Genesis. And you go, whoa. Think of a God energy force, a God community, a God committee, and not just one being, but this spiritual connection between each one of us. So when I think of God, God can look like Vernon. When I think of God, God can look like Linda. God can look like Donna. God can look like anything, because that is where God resides, is in each one of you, not sitting on a throne. God doesn't reside in just under one tree, cross-legged. God is within every one of you. So when you think about that, reach into your mind and let go of your preconceived ideas and bring God into your heart. Because, yep, you know, that's spirit. And sometimes you might call spirit Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus. You could call that anything you want if it makes you feel good, but that's not feeling it, that's calling it.
Amen.
That's saying, this is who. Instead, turn that around and start feeling it. Because in your pocket, when you came into this life, you knew who God was. And that doesn't necessarily mean the pocket you got on your jacket, it's that pocket in your heart. Because that's where that God energy is in that pocket. Now, let's go back to ego. How do you let it get in the way? Because we all, you know, I talk here every Sunday about how wonderful and perfect you are. Am I telling you to boost up your ego so you're the meanest one in the valley? No, it's so that you are that connection. Because if you know you're perfect, then you know Spirit's within you. It's very difficult to be spiritual without that. Because God is as much a part of you as your little toe. So just think of your little toe on your left foot. Are you conscious of it all the time? Do you know that little toe is there all the time? No, you don't. It's just there. That's the way God is. Okay? God is with you all the time. You don't have to be conscious of Spirit constantly. It's with you and it's there. And it's not going to go away. That little toe isn't one morning going to say, that's it, I've had it with you. I'm walking out.
This little piggy's going to market. So just feel that. Feel that little piggy. And realize that God energy is so important in your life. And who puts it there? You do. You put it there because you do it through feeling, not through talking about it. Have you ever heard anybody say, I've got God here, and God is on my side, and God says that you're a jerk? Have you ever met people like that? When they tell you you're wrong because they have God? And what you do is you look at them and you go, isn't that interesting? Ronnie and I were talking this morning, and that's what Moss says is some of the most important words. When somebody is saying something you've never thought of or believed, you just say, isn't that interesting? You don't make them wrong.
May you live in interesting times.
May you live in interesting times. We all have something that we can say.
That's a curse.
Mine is, isn't that interesting? So let's go back to that, going into your heart, and there's a pocket in your heart with your hidden talents. And some of you, your hidden talents that you feel that God resides there is art, music. Some of you can feel. Have you ever looked at a painting and you can feel it?
Yes.
I talk to people who've been to the Louvre, and they say they stood in front of the Mona Lisa and they could feel it.
Wow.
They might not have understood anything about art, but they can feel it. I have people that say, I looked at the trees today, and I could hear them. Think of all of those things when you stop analyzing. Can I really hear trees? You just hear them. When you look at somebody and you can see the aura around them, you see their spiritual energy flowing. Don't analyze it. Well, are they really doing that, and how are they doing this? Is this electromagnetic, or is this something that maybe happened because they walked across a nylon carpet with nylons on? What is this?
If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound.
What?
I can explain that one if you really want to hear it.
Okay, tell me.
It's based on the premise that sound is only called sound if it falls on an ear.
If you hear it. Yeah.
Right. So if there's no one there to hear it, then can we really call it sound?
Corky just gave you 2 thumbs up. Right?
Yay!
Thank you. Right.
Thank you, Jim.
So now, are you complete for today? Now, that's getting into your brain again. Keep thinking of it. Letting go of the brain. The only way you can let it go of the brain is if you think about it. Now, what's the greatest way to let go of the brain? Meditation. When this morning, when I was leading into a heart-filled meditation, I didn't want you to think about it, just feel it. And every time you say, I got caught up in my ego. I need to get back into spirit. Meditation. For some of you, prayer works. Depends on what faith you were raised. Sometimes prayer can become a meditative tool. For others, it isn't. Feel. Today, what I want you to do, we're going to have food back there. When you take a bite, feel it. Okay? Feel it when you swallow it. Feel it. As you go through life today, feel things. How many of you could feel the fog this morning?
I loved it.
Oh,
Not just see it. Not saying, oh my gosh, we've got something going on atmospherically, so now we have fog. You just feel it. Today, when you get a hug from somebody, feel it. Stand there just a little bit longer, heart to heart. Feel their heart source, their heart energy. And for any of you in here who don't like to be hugged, just put up your hand. There are times in life when people have been hurt, and sometimes they don't want to have that hurt resurface by being hugged. So just put up your hand. Say thank you. I shake hands. Or thank you. Because we want to honor who you are and where you are. And if hugs don't feel good to you, there's no reason for you to receive one. Don't analyze why you don't want a hug. Just know it doesn't feel good. The feelings you have are connected with your heart. The ideas you have, let spirit step in and get out of your ego. Do you think I've yelled at you enough today? It feels good to me. I don't know about you. I want you all to just take a moment and just close your eyes one more time and feel. Feel the love in your body and the connection to spirit. Feel the energy of God completely within you. And now I'd like you to feel the energy of the person next to you and just reach out your hand and touch somebody, either to the right or left, or if you're behind somebody, you might put your hand on their shoulder. You can even hold hands and put your hand on somebody's shoulder. You can reach out your foot, I don't care. It's like, let's just touch somebody. Just close your eyes and feel. Feel their skin, feel their hand, feel their pulse, feel their heart. You're holding hands with God. Spirit is flowing through every one of you in this room. And honor it. And when you let go, just say thank you. And now, talk about feeling something. It's time to feel a donation. So if you could all just reach into your purse and feel your wallet, and we're going to do a donation.
Now, can people also donate through the website?
People can donate through the website.
Yep.
CCL
PayPal.
website, PayPal, yes.
Keep asking.
Fancy.
Cat's gone to get
Oh,
that.
Kat's gonna get the other one.
That's a good
Okay,
basket.
and here we go.
Giving to the ministry from which we receive our spiritual support and nurturing is an affirmation and consciousness of the truth that Spirit is the prospering power enriching every area of our lives. All I give comes back to me, blesses me abundantly. All I give